Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about the Trad Wife. All right, let's get into it. All right, so let me define the Trad Wife. The Trad Wife is a traditional wife, um, as defined in 2024, right? And right now there's a huge conversation about trad wives, and that conversation is happening because of two women, Nara Smith and Ballerina Farms, which is her like online name, right? And so basically, there are people who there's nobody in the middle. There's nobody in the middle on this, right? You either hate them or you love them, and women and men really love them because they show what can be done as a traditional wife, right? A trad wife, a traditional wife. So what does a trad wife do? Well, she doesn't work, right? She actually just stays at home with her family 100% of the time, right? And basically, so what does that mean? What does that look like, right? Well, specifically, like Nara Smith shows this very clearly in her videos. She'll tell a story. She'll like, you know what? My kids said that they wanted granola, right? So I got up at 2 a.m. and I, went out and I made sure that and I got all of the whole grains. And I went into my garden and I got some of the grains that I would need for my garden. And then I mixed up everything that was needed all by myself, right? Um, and I created my own granola so that when my kids got up the next day, I had granola for them, but it wasn't just some bar that had been bought in the store. I made it with my own hands. I made it with love. I made it for them. They knew that this granola was only for them, and that basically a mother who would hand their kid some granola bar, that was made in some store. Well, I'm sure those kids know their mother loves them. They just have to work harder to remember it because I labored for them and gave them this fresh, incredibly good food that nothing they will ever eat is ever going to match, right? And nothing they ever have at a friend's house is going to be better because I love them, right? And I care for them with original, custom crafted food that I made, and I give it to them on a plate. And when they're done, I take that plate and I wash it because my love for them is endless, right? And Ballerina Farms is the same way, except she's like, oh, and my kids ride, horses on a farm because I love them, and I've created literally a utopia for them, right? And your mom, does she love you? Well, did you ever ride a horse? Right? And so basically these trad moms, these trad wives, right, are crushed, who are like, they're incredible wives to their husband, they're incredible mothers to their children, and they're peerless. They don't have a peer in the realm, right? Like there's nobody, like absolutely nobody's like, oh man, thank goodness I don't have a trad wife. Everybody's like, how do I get a trad wife? And then there are women who are not trad wives, and men who do not have trad wives, who are outrageously furious, right, with these women, and they catch a lot of heat in their comments, right? Because these women are like, hey, you're making me look bad, right? And so that's the conversation, right? So let's look at trad wives from the perspective of a dungeon master. All right. So here's the question. So first of all, this has nothing to do with gender. You're a dungeon master. The question is, are you a trad wife dungeon master, or are you just a dungeon master, right? So what does it mean to be a trad wife dungeon master? Well, here's the biggest thing. First of all, if you picked up Vecna, Eve of Ruin, and you're running it for your players, your dragon masters right now, you're not a trad wife, right? You're getting the granola bar at the grocery store, right? You're like, hey, somebody else made this adventure for you. Do I love you as a dungeon master? Do you feel loved, Dragon Master? I guess you could imagine that you're loved. I didn't make this myself. I didn't make it for you, right? That's the issue. So who are the trad wife dungeon masters? So you could be a man and be a trad wife dungeon master. You could be a woman and be a trad wife dungeon master, right? So let's get into it, right? And that is, if you made your adventure from scratch using nothing, right? You made your own realm, you made your own adventure, you made your own NPCs, and you put all your all your terrain together. You custom built all the terrain. You custom built all the you custom built all the custom Lego minifigures, and you custom built all the Lego terrain. You're a trad wife. You're a trad wife DM. You're a trad wife dungeon master. Do you love your your dragon masters, your players, more than a regular dungeon master? Heck to the yes. Yeah, 100%. You win. You win. If you're a trad wife dungeon master, you win. Exactly like Nara Smith is winning. Exactly like Ballerina Farms is winning. And the reality is, the only thing that you need to worry about is how do you handle the hate, right? Like, and when your players explain to people what you do for them, right? And they're like, oh man, I just got taken through, my dungeon master just ran Wild Beyond the Witchlight. You actually had custom everything? Custom, it was all made from scratch for you? Because your dungeon master actually loves you rather than just tolerates you or shows up? Wow, right? So the question is, should you be a trad wife dungeon master? I think so. Yeah, absolutely, right? You should do it if you can. Not everyone can. Not everyone can. That is the tricky part. You need to structure your life to do this, right? And it's extremely difficult. Extremely difficult, right? And I think this is one of the reasons why Nara Smith and Ballerina Farms catch so much hate, is because some people just can't do that lift. The lift is too much, right? So one, today you should be able to tell whether you're a trad wife dungeon master or not. Should you be a trad wife dungeon master? 100% if you can. If you can. Is it going to be easy? No, it's going to be outrageously difficult, right? Like, and also here's the other one. Just like real trad wives, are your players going to even appreciate it? That's a good question. That's a good question. And should you continue if they don't? Fascinating questions all around. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking, subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.